Welcome back to the podcast that exists to enrich and inspire young Latinos.
Bienvenidos al podcast que existe para enriquecer e inspirar a jóvenes latinos. El día de hoy se encuentra con nosotros el Dr. Hosffman Ospino, conocido autor y teólogo dentro de los Estados Unidos, un experto entre el diálogo y la fe y la cultura y el impacto que este intercambio tiene en la educación teológica católica. Estamos aquí comenzando el podcast con el Dr. Hosffman Ospino. Hosffman, para comenzar esta conversación, ¿por qué no nos cuentas un poquito de ti, de tu historia, de tu experiencia habiendo nacido en Colombia y ahora ser uno de los profesores más distinguidos en los Estados Unidos?
Bueno, gracias por la invitación a este podcast y para ser parte de esta conversación, Vicente. Sí, nací en Colombia, donde viví los primeros 20 años de mi vida, básicamente, y vine a los Estados Unidos a estudiar. Y bueno, pues poco a poco me fui abriendo camino aquí en los Estados Unidos por medio del estudio, trabajando primordialmente en el contexto de la pastoral, ¿no? Cuando estaba en Colombia estudié filosofía. Aquí en los Estados Unidos vine a estudiar teología pero antes de estudiar teología formalmente trabajé en la parroquia. Yo vengo del mundo de las parroquias, el mundo de la pastoral con las comunidades inmigrantes. Estuve trabajando en una parroquia que es trilingüe, una parroquia latina, una parroquia que es vietnamita y de habla inglesa. Y allí coordinaba la pastoral hispana, ayudaba con la educación religiosa. De hecho, todavía sigo vinculado a esa comunidad. Es la parroquia de San Patricio en Lawrence, Massachusetts, que es una de las ciudades más pobres de Nueva Inglaterra. Luego de ahí, entonces, comencé a hacer un trabajo para la arquidiócesis de Boston y después continué mis estudios en teología a nivel de maestría, un doctorado en teología y educación. Y en el trabajo que he estado haciendo en Boston College, mi lente, ¿no?, de investigación ha sido cómo la comunidad hispana está transformando el catolicismo en los Estados Unidos, de qué manera la comunidad hispana contribuye a una renovación, transformación de la experiencia católica estadounidense, y ha sido una experiencia fascinante.
Sí, Hosffman, me gustaría saber a nivel humano, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo tu experiencia parroquial ha tenido un impacto en la manera que tú haces tus investigaciones? Porque creo que puede haber una desconexión de la academia y de la acción pastoral de la iglesia muchas veces en la iglesia. Y para mí, escuchar que un investigador como tú sigue involucrado en la parroquia, pero también sigue haciendo investigaciones académicas, me parece una combinación muy interesante. Me gustaría saber cómo tu experiencia parroquial ha tenido una influencia en tus investigaciones.
Sí. Bueno, resulta que se nos ha realmente vendido una imagen que es caricaturesca de lo que es la academia, ¿no? Por lo general se asume que los profesores vivimos, por ejemplo, como te das cuenta aquí, en medio de los libros, y que lo único que pensamos es en libros y que no comemos sino letras y que lo único que pensamos es en cómo hacer ideas y estas cosas, y nos desconectamos de la realidad. Y entonces ser un académico significa olvidarse de los sufrimientos, de las alegrías, olvidarse de las realidades de las personas, que somos personas de carne y hueso. Pero hay académicos que de hecho tratan de vivir de esa manera, o quizás sus personalidades les llevan a vivir de esa manera. Hay que tener en cuenta que más del 70% se estima, o alrededor del 70% de los académicos son introvertidos, ¿no? Entonces hay muchas personas que se encuentran en este mundo muy inteligentes, haciendo teorías, haciendo ese trabajo, y lo hacen muy bien, ¿no? Pero no significa que es la única manera de hacer trabajo académico, ¿no? Hay intelectuales y de hecho me gustan a mí los intelectuales de a pie, ¿no? Intelectuales que están en la calle, el intelectual que se unta de sudor del pueblo, el que se unta de olor de oveja, como diría el Papa Francisco. La vida intelectual no está reducida exclusivamente al mundo conceptual, al mundo de los libros, sino que la vida intelectual se puede hacer en diálogo con las comunidades, entendiendo la realidad en el aquí y en el ahora. Y eso es el tipo de vida académica que yo realizo. A mí me gusta estar con las comunidades, en un ambiente relacional, en un ambiente en donde me pueda, re- en gran parte me pueda relacionar con las personas, las pueda escuchar, donde yo pueda aprender, lo pueda ver de mi propia manera. Por ejemplo, me acuerdo de una de mis mejores experiencias ha sido visitar Mississippi. Una vez fui a la diócesis de Jackson, en Mississippi, en donde tuve la oportunidad de ir a visitar los plantíos de lo que llamamos aquí en los Estados Unidos sweet potato o camote, ¿no? Y ver a las fábricas procesadoras, las plantas procesadoras, encontrarme con la gente, muchas personas indocumentadas, pero personas llenas de fe, formando iglesia. En mi propia parroquia, comunidad, es una comunidad inmigrante, una comunidad pobre, en donde la gente es muy sencilla, donde la gente busca simplemente cómo tratar de sobrevivir en la vida diaria, cómo encontrarle sentido cuando pierdes el trabajo, cuando estás enfermo, cuando eres discriminado, cuando eres pobre, cuando no tienes trabajo y cosas así. Y entonces ese es el tipo de investigación, de análisis y de experiencia que le dan una nueva vida a mi propio trabajo académico.
Muchas gracias, Hosffman. De verdad que es un gusto escuchar cómo siempre tus investigaciones tienen una aplicación práctica en la pastoral y retan muchas veces la manera en la cual hacemos pastoral. Yo personalmente me he sentido retado principalmente por tus investigaciones, ¿no? Uh, y ahora quizás, maybe we can change to English because I know that some of the young people that are going to be listening to this would like to hear some of these statistics in English. So you have done a lot of research around Hispanic Catholics in the U.S. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us what were your surprises as a researcher and as a Latino, and how have you responded to that research?
Well, much of my research, as I said earlier, looks at how the Hispanic presence is transforming the U.S. Catholic experience. And what I want to say is that my research, in a sense, has become groundbreaking in the context of the Catholic Church,
It
not
is.
because it's actually new, it's simply because we have not been paying attention, I mean, the Catholic Church in our society, our neighborhoods in the United States have been oblivious to the Hispanic presence. And it's not that they don't see us because we are there, we have our restaurants and our factories and our offices and we have teachers that are Latinos, and we got people in the media and people working in the services industries and so on. So we are there. There are 60 million of us in this country, of whom about 35 million are Roman Catholic, But there is this social blindness that sometimes exists, that both in society and in the church. And we treat Latinos as if we lived, 100,000 miles away from our churches and neighborhoods. And no, we are here. So what my research has done, and what I actually committed to doing is to name the obvious, to name that reality that is in the here and now, and somehow shake up our institutions and shake up our communities, faith communities, our Catholic schools, universities, so we can better serve the population that is actually transforming and redefining U.S. Catholicism. So in 2014, I released the results of a national study on Catholic parishes with Hispanic ministry, about 4,300 parishes back then. Right now, it's a little bit about 4,600, give or take. And 2 years later, I released a study on Catholic schools serving Hispanic families. After that, I've been doing some research on ecclesial movements, on vocations to the priesthood, religious life, and the permanent diaconate among Hispanics. And I've been doing also research on young Hispanic Catholics as well. So all these research projects, in many ways, have helped me to name that which is obvious, that we are here, that we exist, and that we are the church in the United States of America. not alone. We are the church with the Black Catholic community, with the Asian Catholic community, with the white Catholic community, with the Native American Catholic community, but nobody can ignore our numbers. We constitute a larger portion of the Catholic Church. And so going back to the point, many people still think that Latinos are just immigrants, or that we live primarily in Texas, California, or Florida, or that Latinos are a community that is not interested in Catholicism, or if we do Catholicism, we maybe go back to Mexico or go back to whatever in Central America we are from, or South America, the Caribbean, and that's where we practice our Catholicism. And all of the above are just myths, myths that emerge precisely out of the perhaps ignorance or unwillingness to embrace that the Catholic Church in the United States of America is becoming a significantly Hispanic experience. And some of the numbers that every statistic that I can share with you and your audience, Vicente, is a statistic that should be give us pause. Just for instance, in the 1960s, about 7% or 6% of all Catholics in the United States of America self-identified as Hispanic. Well, today, that number has gone from 6 to about 45%, And in some parts of the country, if you go to California, Southern Texas, or Florida, and other parts of the country,
Chicago,
but in the Southwest, you're going to find dioceses where 60, 70, 80, 90% of the entire Catholic population is Hispanic. And what I still find shocking, is that many Catholics refer to the Latino community knowing that that Hispanics are 80% of the entire Catholic population. They refer to us as a minority, and that's, that really tells me the resistance that it's out there in an archdiocese like Chicago. More than 52% of Catholics are Hispanic, and actually if you go at the younger levels, it's even, more Hispanic. The younger the Catholic population is, the more Hispanic, it is going to self-identify. And still, we treat Latinos as, they are visiting, or they are the minority in a parish, or they are the group that maybe we celebrate a couple of masses here and there. And the truth is, no, we have become the backbone of Catholic life in many parts of the United States. And the other stat that I always like to share, perhaps, and as I said, Vicente, there are many statistics, but one statistic that I like to share is the fact that we are a very young population, So median age of Latinos in the United States of America is 29. I mean, just think about it, 29, when the median age of white Catholics is 55, Just put those two together. So, and I always joke, who is having the kids? Who is having the children at this particular age? Because most Latinos find ourselves at a time in our lives right now into which we are forming them, families and having the next generation, mentoring the next generation, and we're kind of, making way, finding spaces, looking for spaces so we can build communities. And being such a young population, when you take all Latinos under the age of 18, 94% were born in the United States of America. So this is not what's coming for the Catholic Church in the Latino community. Is not ministry with a primarily immigrant population, but ministry with a primarily US-born population, highly influenced by their parents and grandparents who are immigrant, yet made here, made in the USA, grown in the United States of America, shaped by the cultural dynamics of what it means to be, someone born in the United States of America. And Latinos are actually, as being gente puente, bridge builders, are not only embracing the larger culture, but they also retain, and we also retain, much of the elements of our Latino cultures and experiences.
Nuestra latinidad. Huffman, as you know, I know that you are one of the voices that is educating us on the Latino presence in the church and the Latino presence in society. What has been some of the response that you have seen both from the church and society in terms of the overwhelming reality, right? I mean, it's very significant. Some of the statistics that you share, the change from the 60s to now, the fact that we are average Latino is 29, so they are about to have kids, right? They say that every 30 seconds a Latino turns 18. So we are a very young population. So as you share this with the leadership of the church, the leadership of diocese, what has been some of the response that you have seen?
Well, I mean, in many places, the response has been positive. It's like, thank you. I mean, we really need to do this. And I mean, I'm grateful to the many bishops and pastors and personnel in dioceses that actually invite me or invite others who do similar work to the one that I'm doing to grow and raise awareness about the Hispanic presence and the needs and the challenges and the history and so on. Another reaction is, I mean, some people get overwhelmed, because nobody likes to change. That's one of the problems. If you've been doing things the same way for, say, a century or 60 years or 20 years, and your parish is mostly white or mostly English speaking or mostly X or Y, well, people don't want to adjust to the challenges of a new community or a different way of being. And the fact is that Catholicism in the United States of America is becoming Hispanicized. So we are becoming a Latino church, a Hispanic church, and also in the midst of larger diversity. So some people are overwhelmed because some people just begin to say, I remember that I once gave a talk, in a diocese, and there's this 68, 70-year-old sister, most amazing lady, excellent sense of humor. And then she's listening to me, and I'm going through all my stats and my research and pointing to the urgency of working with Hispanic Catholics, particularly Hispanic youth. And then she just raised her hand and she said, Dr. Ospino, I really thank you for all that you are doing and for all this information, but I am too old for this stuff. I just can't do it. This is too much for me. I don't speak Spanish. I am not young. I am so into my American white ways of doing things, and besides, I'm going to retire very soon. And I said, well, sister, that doesn't mean that you cannot do anything. As a matter of fact, it is a myth that in order to work with the Latino community, you have to speak Spanish. Because as a matter of fact, more than 85% of Latinos in the United States of America are English speaking, And I mean, some people tell me, but some Latinos or many Latinos speak with an accent. And I always say, well, who doesn't speak with an accent? Like everybody speaks with an accent. I mean, have you ever heard New England accent? I live in Boston, so it's a very marked accent. Everybody, New York accent, Chicago accent, just in Portland accent. Everybody has it. And so, and there's also the myth that, that if that in order to work with Latinos, you have to be of a particular age or you have to eat a particular food. My dear friends, the only thing that you need to work with the Latino community in the Catholic Church is the same thing that entire generations of Christians have needed over the centuries, and that is to be in love with Jesus Christ, to be passionate about evangelization, and to have the willingness to share your witness, to share your story. It doesn't matter if you are 20 or 50 or 80 or 150, as long as you want to share your story with this next generation of Latinos, Latinas, whether in English or in Spanish or in Spanglish, everything, all of the above is valid, but we got it. We got to do this.
It's interesting, Hosffman. I met you for the first time in 2014, and I remember as I was listening to you speak, I also felt overwhelmed. I also felt this sense of responsibility, right? we have a huge responsibility as Latinos, right? And then connecting your experience about language as a inmigrante mexicano, I had to learn English in order to work with Latinos because most of young Latinos, if they want to have a conversation, uh, they probably prefer to have it in English, right? So talking about responsibility, Hosffman, I mean, it's very clear that we have that there is an opportunity, but also we as Latinos have a huge responsibility on how do we respond to this huge need, right? The fact that we are a majority in dioceses, that we are a growing minority in other dioceses, means that we're gonna need leaders. We're gonna need leaders. We're gonna need people that raise their hand and are not gonna be able to do ministry and work with Latinos. What do you think is one of the perhaps the most important responsibility we have as young Latinos, right? In the midst of this opportunity and this moment in the church, what should we be doing?
Okay, wow.
It's a question of the $1 million.
Right, but it's hard to name only one because the thing is that our contribution to building the church in God's reign in the United States of America in the 21st century, particularly in this decade, it's part of it's part of a complex dynamic. So, there is no such a thing. I mean, I could pretty much tell you go and do Eucharistic adoration, and everything is going to be solved. I have met people who say who do there's some people, I know pastoral leaders who are doing vocational ministry, and I ask them, what are you doing to encourage vocations and to pray for vocations to the priesthood, religious life, and permanent diaconate, lay ecclesial ministry in the Latino community? And they say, I do Eucharistic adoration. And I said, excellent. What else do you do? No, that's what I do. And they get, no, you got to do much more than that. You got to do much more than that, because, grace, builds upon nature, as the medieval theologians reminded us, and we need to do our work, and we need to do it well. So if I were to name one particular responsibility right now, is education. That's the key. That's going to be the key. The Latino community, when it comes to the Latino community. And it has to be a priority for every family, for every young person in the United States of America. Let's keep in mind that education continues to be the number one trigger of social mobility, upper mobility in the United States of America. Yes, I understand that not everybody gets the ideal job when they graduate and so on, but if you are educated over a lifetime, your life is gonna make a lot of sense, and it's gonna be much, much different than if you never graduate from high school or if you never finish your college. So there are plenty of statistics, there are plenty of analysis, there are plenty of ways of measuring that up. If you only finish, high school, for instance, over a lifetime, you will be able to make only half or less of what someone with a bachelor's degree will make, and that tells you how much that is. So the quality of your life can be 50% less of the quality than if you actually finished your education at the college level. So where am I going with this? Well, the Latino community is inheriting, the Latino Catholic community is inheriting a church that is very well structured. And we must be grateful. We should always be grateful to our sisters and brothers who are Euro-American. We have an obligation to acknowledge that Euro-American Catholics, built an amazing infrastructure. Of course, there were things that they failed to do, like bringing along the Latino and the Black communities, and there were failures along the way, and there were mishaps along the way, and so on, because nothing is perfect. As long as we are in history, nothing is perfect. But I gotta tell you something, that your American Catholics built a major network. They built more than 20,000 Catholic churches in this country. They built more than 13,000 Catholic schools, more than 300 colleges and universities, and a large network of hospitals and social services, dynamics, countless organizations to coordinate ministry and education and evangelization, and on and on and on and on. Even to this day, Catholic Charities continues to be the second largest provider of social services in the United States of America after the US government. Catholic Relief Services is one of the largest organizations providing resources of support, education, and accompaniment, towards social development or human development in the entire world. And most of these efforts are being financed, supported, or driven by your American Catholics. And that is amazing. The generosity of this population is great, what it has done. Now that we are inheriting many of these structures, it is a time for us to affirm what has been done and take it to the next level. But we cannot take what we have received to the next level only with good wishes and Hail Marys. We need to educate ourselves. And that's why we need, nobody gets to the seminary unless you have a high school and a university degree. Very rarely a seminary will accept you without a bachelor's degree. There are some that do, but not all of them. If you want to help your school, you cannot become a Catholic school teacher without a degree. You cannot become a principal of a Catholic school without a degree. You cannot become a college professor teaching theology or science or math, from a Catholic perspective, without having a college degree. So without education, we will not be able to influence the fields of law or medicine or engineering. We cannot become politicians. We need to educate ourselves so we can bring the best of our faith and the best of our Catholic tradition to bear upon the development of church life and the larger social life in the United States of America. So that is our major responsibility at this very moment. We are inheriting a beautiful structure that needs to be taken to the next level, and we need to prepare ourselves to do that, and add our own contributions, add our own structures in our own churches.
That's beautiful, Hosffman. It's sad that today only 22% of young Latinos that begin college, only 22% will at least get an associate's degree. So when you talk about education, many names come to my mind of young people that are struggling to go to school, are struggling to study and work at the same time. So as you speak to this generation that is for many of them, many of the ones that I'm thinking are first generation Latino students in college and go to a community college for the first 2 years and then get this encouraged. Why would you say to this generation of young Latinos when it comes to the responsibility that they have not only with themselves but with the broader community?
Finishing a 4-year degree, I understand that many young Latinos have to wrestle with realities and circumstances that perhaps other young people do not have to, we know that many young Latinos have to actually drop out of school so they can work and support their parents or their younger siblings, or help support families in the countries of their parents' origin. I understand that many young Latinas, come from families that struggle with poverty or addictions or violence, and they got to step up and try to support their own families. I also understand that there are many Latinos who unfortunately come from families where their parents never went to college. Their parents never went to a university, never got a degree. And that is not part of their imaginary. That is not part of how they see this. In the United States of America, if a parent, only one parent, has a college degree, the chances that their child would go to college increases by 70%. Just
Wow.
imagine that, by 70%. Well, we got millions of young people, young Latinas, Latinos, who do not have a parent who finished a college degree, and that already places them at a disadvantage. I also want to be mindful, and I'm sorry that I'm extending myself, kind of providing the prelude because to my answer, no? But there is also the big challenge that most Hispanic children who are going to public schools go to underperforming public schools. Okay, 73% of Hispanic children attend underperforming schools. So that means that these young women and men, our future, our treasure, are not receiving the quality education that will get them through high school and eventually through college. So our US society is being complicit in one of the greatest sins that we have seen in the last century, by creating an underclass with the Latino community, by not providing quality education. And this is not the first time that we do it. I mean, we have seen the gross effects of mistreating and not giving quality education to Black people in the United States of America. And the impact, and the Black community has done incredible work to get out of a major cycle of poverty, and still many struggle, still many struggle. But the same thing is happening with the Latino community before our own eyes. And the majority of these young kids, these young women and men, are Catholic. This is why we as Catholics need to get involved. This is a Catholic problem. So now I'm going to answer your question, which goes back to, you asked me, I mean, what do I advise to young Latinos vis-a-vis, getting an education? I understand, and many people in this country, many people in the church understand that young Hispanics have to work twice, thrice, 4, 5, 10 times harder than perhaps other populations in order to succeed. But you know what? We gotta do it. We have to roll up our sleeves and do it. When I got my doctoral degree and my master's degree, when my wife got her education, her undergraduate, graduate education, we were working. We worked, and we had to do it, with sacrifice, and we had to sacrifice a number of things. But today it pays off. I'm not a wealthy person, and I'm, but at least I have a decent life, which I am actually providing now to my children. So if we gotta work hard, we gotta work hard. And those of us who accompany young Latinos, we have to work even harder to remove the obstacles that are preventing young Latinos, Latinas from succeeding. We gotta work on scholarships. We have to be generous with scholarships. We have to be generous in terms of supporting young Latinos. 50% of gang members in the United States of America are Hispanic, 50%. And we have to work there. I mean, as ministers and as educators and as political leaders, and whoever is listening to this podcast, we must, ensure that our young Latinos have what is necessary to succeed, and if that means scholarships, then we do scholarships. If that means mentoring, then we do mentoring. And if that means going and fighting with political systems and policies and bishops and professors of theology, whoever that is, we go and do it, but we can't remain still. We can't remain just waiting to see what happens. But on the other, so we need both, On the one hand, we need those of us who are better off, who have made it to a certain level. We need to look back and bring our people, provide the energy and the resources that they need. But on the other hand, our young Latinos, Latinas, you need to do your part. You need to do your part. For goodness sake, stay in college. Finish your associate's degree and then finish your bachelor's degree. If you could make the sacrifice for 2 years, you can do it for 4. I can guarantee you that. I mean, if you think about it, Vicente, no, a young person can finish a bachelor's and a master's degree by the age of 23, 24. And then the rest of your life, you will be, in a better position. I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be a millionaire. I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be highly famous like Vicente. I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be super influential, but I can guarantee you that you will have more opportunities in your life, and not only for you, but also for your community, for your children, for yourself, for your church.
It's beautiful the way you put it, Hosffman. We have to do it not only for ourselves, but for our community. We have a lot of responsibility as Latinos, right? We are, I think, the fastest growing minority in the U.S. We have a responsibility in the church, but we also have a responsibility in society. You just spoke about the importance of education. What is there only other advice that you will have for young Latinos to be leaders and transformative leaders, not only in society, but also in the church and vice versa, in the church and society? What will be your advice for young Latinos as they become these transformative leaders that we need?
Okay. I'm going to perhaps quote, or at least paraphrase what the Second Vatican Council said, every baptized Christian has a responsibility to witness to the truth and the beauty of the gospel in the spaces where we live, where we are, where we become with others. So not everybody's called to be a priest. Not everybody's called to be an engineer. Not everybody's called to be a doctor. Not everybody's called to be married. Not everybody's called to be single. Not everybody's called to be a white-collar professional. Not everybody's called to be a farm worker. Not everybody's called to be working in a factory and so on, okay? So we need to understand the context in which we live, where we find ourselves, some form of realization. And it's going to vary for everyone. But what is a common denominator for every Christian is that we have a responsibility to witness to the truth and the beauty of the gospel everywhere. Whether you are a farm worker, whether you clean buildings, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a politician, whether you're the president of the United States, whether you are a doctor, whether you're a professor, a teacher, doesn't matter. You have a responsibility to witness. And I think that's the first thing that we need to do as Christians, as women and men of faith. Understand that nobody gets a free pass insofar as to the obligation to witness to the beauty and the truth of the gospel. And if you don't know the gospel, and if you have never heard the gospel, you go and grab a Bible, sit down and read it. It'll take you about a couple of hours to go through the 4 gospels. And then you will understand what this is all about, okay? Now, as human beings, as citizens, as individuals who are part of a society, okay? And I'm gonna use the word citizen in a broad way, because I understand that perhaps many of your listeners are DACA recipients and are not, maybe they're residents and not citizens of the United States, or many perhaps could be undocumented. I'm using citizen here in the broad way, in a more humanitarian way. If you live here, this is your country. If you are here, this is your land. This is your nation. This is your neighborhood. This is your community. This is your familia. And as such, we have a responsibility to get involved. We gotta get involved. Once again, nobody as a citizen, nobody as a member of a community gets a free pass to be a spectator and simply wait for someone to come and transform reality. And I always share this with my students. When I say, what's responsibility? What does it mean to get involved? When you are walking on the street and you see a can, a soda can on the floor, or you see that piece of paper in front of your house, and then if you say somebody should pick it up, That's the wrong question. That's the wrong affirmation. You go and pick it up because that's your responsibility. You don't like a politician. You don't like a political system. You don't like a set of policies. What do? Complain and sit down, go back to your bedroom and play video games or get drunk or simply ignore what's going on? No, you go out and vote. You go and get involved. Political organizing, community organizing, religious organizing, faith-based organizing. You educate yourself. You say, what can I do? That's the responsibility that we all have. Oh, that I am not educated, doesn't matter. I have seen community organizers who have barely finished fifth grade, and these people could run an entire town, usually women. They could run abuelas. They can run a town if you give them a chance, no? Oh, that I speak English with an accent. Who cares? We all speak with an accent, that I don't have enough education, that I am undocumented, that I'm a DACA recipient. It doesn't matter. We all have to get involved. We got to form our children. And that's something, the Latino community knows how to do this because we have done it and we do it on a regular basis. And my invitation is for young people to say, just sit down, pause for a moment, stop, put your phone down, shut your computer off for a while, sit down and just do an examination and ask yourself, what is it? What is it that I need to do to transform my context, my society, my church? What can I do where I am? What are my goals? And you will see the difference.
Muchas gracias. Así que para todos los que nos están escuchando, tenemos que hacer lo que el Papa Francisco nos llama a hacer, ¿no? Tomar el primer paso, no esperar que los demás hagan lo que nosotros podemos hacer por nosotros mismos, no solamente en nuestra vida, sino en la vida de los demás. Para ir terminando, doctor Ospino, me gustaría hacer una pregunta más personal. ¿Podría nombrar quizás a una de las influencias que hayas tenido en tu pensamiento, en your thought? Who has influenced the way you think?
Wow, muchísima gente. Do you want me to answer in English or en español?
Como gustes, es un espacio bilingüe.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who have influenced me, and I was lucky that I have a family that, instilled in me good values, I wouldn't say. I mean, not a perfect family, I would never claim that my mother is perfect, my father is perfect, but they instilled good values. And I have had really good friends as well. Mentors, a lot of mentors, professors that have influenced me. But in terms of my thinking, I want to tell you something, Vicente, that, and perhaps as an immigrant, this applies to me as an immigrant. When I came to the United States of America, I was born in Colombia. And when I came to the United States of America, I came as a Colombian. And when I landed in Miami, I remember, on my way to Boston, I landed as a Colombian and I introduced myself as a Colombian. I lived for many months as a Colombian in the United States of America. But quickly, I began to be introduced to the experience of Latinos, Latinas at different levels, intellectually, religiously, in faith communities, in organizing, a lot of community organizing I have seen as well. And then I realized something, I began to read, the work of Cesar Chavez. I began to read, Chicano scholars and Chicano thinkers. I began to read the work of Virgilio Elizondo as a theologian. I read the work of Ada Maria Isasi Diaz, Cuban-American theologian. And I began to read all these people who were ahead of me 10, 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 years, before me, naming, capturing an experience, the experience of the Latino community. And something that I learned from them, from these people, is that they were part of la lucha, in a struggle for self-identity. And these scholars took me to the work of literature, theology, and intellectual life of Black Americans, of African Americans. And I I have been passionate about the work of African American scholars, theologians, authors, literary writers, because they continue to influence me. So I would say that, more than individuals, my life has been shaped by communal experiences. The communal experience of the mentors that have been part of my life, the communal experience of the Latino community in the United States, which is very specific, the experience of the African American community and the scholars. And I owe to all of them a lot. And I could add many other communities, the Catholic intellectual communities, the faith communities that I have worked for. But I would say it's being mindful to the voices of these people, particularly people who are struggling to say, here I am, I exist.
Thank you. One more question. ¿Quién es tu santo favorito y por qué?
Oh, I have to say that, maybe mi santo favorito, siempre me ha gustado San Ignacio de Loyola. Siempre.
San Ignacio.
Me ha gustado San Ignacio de Loyola por, no sé, siempre me han llamado la atención la espiritualidad ignaciana. Yo creo que desde jovencito fui expuesto o conocí los ejercicios espirituales de San Ignacio. Me gusta que San Ignacio habla de pasión, de emoción. San Ignacio es una persona que conecta con mi realidad como ser humano. Y me gusta la literatura espiritual española, ¿no? Leer a Ignacio en español, ¿cierto? Castellano, el de castellano antiguo, es bien interesante. Y a través de Ignacio también me encantó leer a Teresa de Jesús y Juan de la Cruz, ¿no? Son fascinantes.
Los santos carmelitas.
Los carmelitas, ¿eh?
Pues muchísimas gracias, hombre. Thank you. You are definitely one of my biggest influencers in my life. I thank God for you and my work, Hosffman. I know that you have inspired and you continue to inspire young Latinos to make it happen and to take responsibility for not only for our lives but for our community. So aquí ante el público te quiero agradecer por todo lo que haces por nuestra iglesia y por todo lo que has hecho por muchos jóvenes latinos que sueñan en hacer la diferencia. Muchas gracias y te cedo las últimas palabras de este programa a ti, hombre.
Gracias, Vicente, por la invitación. Gracias a quienes nos escuchan, a las personas que conozco y en el área de donde tú estás viviendo, que han trabajado tanto, que me han inspirado también. Gracias. Y a los jóvenes les digo, just don't give up. This is your church. You are the church in the United States of America. So let's build God's reign, here and now.
Muchas gracias, Hosffman. Ha sido un placer.
Listen with us and experience the joy of the gospel.
Escúchanos y experimenta la alegría del evangelio. Te esperamos.
Dare to dream.
Atrévete a soñar.